What Will Make America Great, Part 2. In a recent post about making America great, I thought I made three pretty obvious points. We came without permission, we stole land, and then we built our country with stolen people. I didn't really specify who we is, but I thought it was three pretty clear points. I was trying to stay under 3 minutes for the purpose of Instagram, and I focused on just those points to say that they're related to our current situation here in America, and that we need to recognize that if we're going to be truly great. I received a lot of positive comments from in YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. I also had some expected pushback. I'm not surprised at all. And I didn't plan to make this into a series, but I felt like some of the comments that were made would require more than just comments to respond to. So here I am with another video, at least one more, maybe two, I don't know. While there have been some angry responses, and I do understand the anger actually, the gist of the most cogent comments can be summarized under two themes, and I'm going to tackle one of them here. So one comment was, in a sense, or one type of comment was, in a sense, this is just false guilt and sort of get over it. That raises the question of responsibility. And then another comment was, well, then give yours back. And that raises the question of reparations. In this video, I'm going to really focus on this whole question of guilt and responsibility. So let me talk first about guilt. I think it was interesting that listeners brought up the word guilt because I actually didn't use it myself. In fact, I don't feel guilty about what my ancestors may or may not have done, nor should anyone who's listening to me. If I or you are to feel guilty about anything, it should be about things we've done. And the guilt that we feel should be a source of motivation then to do whatever is appropriate or possible to reconcile or repair what we've done. My point was simple, although it had a few subpoints. Simply put, my point was that it's a historical fact that America as we know it is made up of land taken from the original inhabitants, and it's also a simple fact that for a significant period of our development, our economy depended on slave labor. There are other factors, of course, which have gone into making us who we are as a nation, true, and some of them were very noble ones, and I mentioned that in the first video as well. But I think it's simply factual to say what I just said about land and enslaved people. So I'm not sure why that statement gets people so upset. I have theories, but that's probably for another time. I was also trying to make the point that our current crisis around immigration is a crisis set within this historical reality that several hundred years ago, illegal immigrants came and took over. I know that illegal is anachronistic in the literal sense, but the ethical question's the same. Did the Europeans who arrived in waves have a moral or ethical right to do so? The answer to me seems obvious, no. So my ultimate point was that unless we address and acknowledge the irony and the hypocrisy, frankly, of the current extreme actions being taken to deal with immigration, we're not in fact going to solve anything. We're just going to continue adding to the underground aquifer, as it were, of our collective responsibility for our history. But that raises the second topic for this video, which is responsibility. Who is or was responsible for what, and who is responsible now to do what? Related to the issue of the land, for example, it's too simple to say that Europeans of various types and in various waves took it. That's true as far as it goes, but there was taking of land before Europeans arrived. Various indigenous peoples took land from one another, for example. This is true even when we account for very different ideas among them compared with Europeans about what land meant and even the possibility of owning it. The fact is that indigenous peoples were taking hunting rights and territorial land from one another. So if there's a responsibility to give anything back, who gives it back to whom? Related to the issue of enslaved people, it's too simple to say that European whites enslaved black Africans. That is true as far as it goes. But the slave trade was much more complicated, with Arabs and a number of African tribal nations sharing in and benefiting from the enterprise. So, who's responsible for what then and in the future? Assigning responsibility for what did happen is a very multi-layered process. I said that some comments on my first video serve to raise the question as well of reparations, like, well, if you feel so guilty, give whatever you've got back. Given that the responsibility for what did happen is multi-layered, then so too is going to be the complex question of who's responsible to do something and what they may be responsible to do and for whom. But that whole question of reparations is for another video.